Hey guys, tonight we slip into the labyrinthine alleys of Istanbul's Grand Bazaar, where you drag your senses through tunnels, scented with cardamom and cinnamon, and might accidentally sneeze out your latest tweets. The glittering lanterns overhead cast kaleidoscopic patterns on piles of saffron like tiny suns begging for your Instagram filter, while the air hums with the promise of exotic flavors you can't even pronounce. You probably won't survive a day here without inhaling enough pepper dust to fuel 1,000 curry houses, but that's half the fun. Trust me, your sinus cavities will thank you later. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, comment below with where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. Bonus points if you spot your time in the bazaar's mosaic clocks. Get your beverage of choice ready, ideally something cool like mint tea to soothe those spice-fueled nostrils. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step onto the mosaic stone floor, each tile worn smooth by centuries of sandal and boot. Above you, copper lanterns cast a warm, flickering glow that dances across spice stalls piled high with saffron like miniature sunbursts and heaps of turmeric gleam like golden shingles. The air is thick with the tang of nutmeg and clove, punctuated by the faint metallic tinge of hammered copper pots. It's like wandering through a scented candle store while someone plays a snake-charming flute on loop, minus the snakes, thankfully. You gently waft the air in front of your face, bracing for the pepper ghost that follows you if you breathe too deeply. Few people know that merchants once tested saffron's purity by nibbling a single thread to check for metallic notes. Talk about awkward coffee breaks. The Grand Bazaar's heart began beating in 1453, right after Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror recaptured Constantinople, and it soon exploded into a trading nexus rivaling Cairo's markets. As you weave through the labyrinth of stalls, you notice that nobody is shouting prices. No, that's too mainstream. Instead, traders lean in, close voices dropping to hushed murmurs that slice through the market's din like razor-sharp scimitars. It's basically the medieval equivalent of a private group chat. Instead of emojis, they flash cinnamon sticks to flirt with each other's offers and a rolled-up silk scarf. Signals, I want that last bit of saffron. If you tried this at home, your family would think you'd gone full spice wizard, but here, it's just business as usual. The vaulted ceilings echo each soft syllable, making it feel like the bazaar itself is conspiring to keep its secrets. You spot an Armenian silk merchant and a Greek trader locked in this silent tango of covert gestures, and for a moment, it's like watching an ASMR video, minus the tingly ear tingles, but plus the risk of under-seasoned stew. You pause at a cedar-scented booth where spices rest in wooden bowls, carved with elaborate arabesques. The booth's owner, a burly fellow with a silver-streaked turban, hands you a pouch of cumin and raises an eyebrow. Instead of saying hello, he thumbs the pouch twice. Local code, for you, look trustworthy. But are you ready to meet my price? You catch on and tap your palm 3 times, which, as it turns out, means I want to trade for your rare black pepper, grown on the Sultan's private isles. It's like negotiating flight upgrades with an airline rep who refuses to budge on seat 24C, only here the reward is legroom in the form of scarlet threads of saffron instead of extra inches. Nearby, a boy hides behind a stack of cinnamon brooms, giggling at your fumbling attempts to mirror these silent signals, probably thinking you're the clumsiest novice since someone tried swapping olive oil for nutmeg. Your nose twitches at the sharp zing of cloves, and you can't help but recall that crocodile dung-based sunscreen formula from your bizarre history binge last week, totally unrelated, but why not speaking of oddities? Cardamom was once more valuable than gold in Europe because royals believed it cured lovesickness, romantic, yet slightly terrifying. Historians still debate whether these whispered spice deals truly fueled the Ottoman economy or if most of the empire's profits actually came from silk and textile taxes instead. It's part of what makes this market so intoxicating, the smell of possibility swirling with the weight of centuries-old secrets. You inhale deeply, letting the turmeric-tinged air fill your lungs, and for a moment feel as though you're breathing in history itself. As you step deeper, your senses start playing tricks. Every spice blend seems to hum like a choir of ghostly taste buds demanding your attention. You find yourself trailing after an elderly merchant whose sale of rare star anise summons a swirl of dust motes in the lantern glow. He pauses to inhale deeply, eyes half closed, as if auditioning for a perfume ad. You watch him drop a single star anise into an alabaster bowl, then flick his wrist to signal the deal is done. No words, no fuss. It's almost poetic, like silent theater, where each spice is an actor delivering lines only the initiated can appreciate. Your jaw might ache from all the sniffing, but hey, think of it as free facial yoga. And if you ever try this in real life, be warned, customs officers will give you the side eye for carrying spice pouches in your carry-on. Somewhere, the distant chant of a muezzin rises above the murmurs, reminding you that this market was once the beating heart of an empire, and you're right at its secretive core. You slip away from the lantern-lit stalls and wander out of the winding market alleys, drawn by the cool hush of the night air and the distant thrum of hooves on cobblestone. Under the crescent moon's silver glow, you find yourself on a narrow road just outside Istanbul's city walls, where rows of camels stretch out like sleepy giants in a caravan that seems to go on forever. Their soft swaying gait rocks wooden crates brimming with saffron cloves and star anise, and you can practically taste the spice in the air like someone shook a pepper grinder directly over your tongue. You press a hand against a camel's flank, and it emits a low rumble that vibrates through your palm, reminding you that these creatures can carry up to 900 pounds. So, if you ever complain about your workload, just think about being a camel. The caravan leader, a lean man wrapped in indigo-dyed robes, raises a twisted staff to guide the procession. You follow his silhouette lantern in hand along a dusty trail flanked by wild thyme and rosemary bushes whose fragrant oils rise in the nocturnal breeze. It's a sensory cocktail, the crisp crunch of gravel under your boots, the whisper of camel bells tinkling in a regular rhythm, and the earthy aroma of spices mingling with the faint sweetness of sage. Next to you, a merchant shakes a handful of coriander seeds into a bowl, testing for moisture by how the seeds bounce a secret trick not even every trader knows. You lean closer, inhaling that citrusy kick, and wonder if your nose is sophisticated enough to distinguish coriander from crushed mint leaves. Spoiler, it probably isn't. Above you, the sky is a tapestry of stars, and you can almost hear the cosmic hush pressing down as if the universe itself is eavesdropping on these midnight exchanges. A shooting star zips across the vault of heaven, and you murmur a wish for a lifetime supply of cinnamon, because why not? Turns out cinnamon was once so prized that in the 16th century, the Portuguese paid for it in gold equal to its weight, and traders smuggled it in hollowed-out walking sticks to avoid detection. Historians still debate whether those daring smuggling runs did more to fuel the spice craze or to inflate cinnamon's price beyond reason. You move onward, passing between low-slung tents where merchants have set up makeshift spice tables on woven rugs. Each tent is illuminated by a single oil lamp that flutters like a firefly in the night. You crouch beside one and see a packed mound of black peppercorns next to a tray of shimmering nutmeg kernels. The merchant, a proud fellow with a walnut-brown beard, grins and offers you a taste of crushed nutmeg dust. As it hits your tongue, it's like a warm hug in powdered form, counterintuitive, given you'd expect nutmeg to be well nutty. He then flicks 2 peppercorns into a copper dish local code, indicating he'll trade 4 peppercorns for 1 nutmeg. You tap your index finger 4 times, and then your thumb, once signaling that you accept. This silent bargaining feels like a secret handshake you'll soon forget, probably by tomorrow morning. A gentle north wind rises, sending creases of sand dancing across the road, and you pull your scarf tighter against your face. Beneath the sand's whisper, you think you can hear songs from distant lands, the faint melody of a qanun, plucked by a caravan musician, the rhythmic thump of a trader's drum. It's almost theatrical, like a traveling minstrel show designed to lull you into a false sense of comfort until you remember you're negotiating with people who treat saffron threads like rare gemstones. Between the tents, you spot camels stirring, crouching to kneel, and then rising with a sound that resembles an old door creaking on rusty hinges. If camels had Spotify playlists, you'd guess they'd prefer something lo-fi. Your guide motions you toward a cluster of decorated wagons pulled by sturdy oxen. Hung on the wheels are bundles of dried rose petals used for testing spice freshness. The petals would wilt faster if the adjacent spices were old or humid. It's a technique so obscure that only a handful of merchants still practice it, another quirky fact you'll share with your next dinner party, ensuring everyone pretends to care. As you watch the rose petals droop in the lamp glow, a thought tugs at you. Would you ever trust a fragrance test involving flowers and food? Probably not. But back then, merchants considered it cutting-edge quality control. In the distance, the silhouettes of Ottoman watchtowers stand guard, their crenellated tops cutting into the night sky like the teeth of some ancient beast. You note the irony. This caravan moves spices worth more than kingdoms, yet is escorted by only a dozen guards armed with long spears and short daggers. At least they're well fed. One guard munches on sugared almonds and offers you one, joking that the sweets make the sandstorms more bearable. You pop an almond into your mouth, and its crunchy sweetness floods your senses, melding with the lingering tang of cumin on your palate. It's delightful, until you realize you've been chewing silently for so long, the guard is giving you the side eye. As you continue, a distant rumble catches your attention. A group of traders perched on a low hill signal the caravan to halt, and the procession comes to a soft stop. You follow their lead and discover a hidden cache of cinnamon stacked behind boulders for safekeeping from bandits, a precautionary measure after a daring 1571 raid along the Silk Road. The chill night air carries the faintest hum of insects and the clink of pottery as someone rearranges spice jars. In that moment, you feel like an uninvited guest at a secret midnight picnic. Only the menu is powered by centuries of commerce and intrigue, not sandwiches and soda. Leaning against a boulder, You catch your reflection in a merchant's polished bronze mirror, wind-blown hair, eyes wide with fascination, and a faint smudge of turmeric somewhere on your cheek. You laugh quietly at the absurdity. There you are, a 21st century traveler, standing among 16th century traders tracking the ebb and flow of cinnamon, like it's the latest cryptocurrency. Then you remember that this very practice, spices serving as silent currency, once helped finance the Ottoman siege of Rhodes in 1522, supplying the troops with rations and medicinal herbs. It's wild to imagine these same caravans feeding armies that changed the course of history. With a soft flick of his wrist, the caravan leader signals the resumption of the journey. The camels rise and creak, wagons groan, and you step back onto the road, each footstep echoing in the hush. The wind has softened into a whisper, stirring the dust at your feet like a pair of silent storytellers. You inhale one last time, savoring that heady mix of coriander and saffron, and think this is where magic happens, where fragrances become fortunes, and every hushed exchange is steeped in layers of power, trust, and a dash of peril. Now off we go to see what negotiations the dawn light will reveal. If you survive that long without sneezing, you slip behind the vibrant silk drapes, and instantly the world narrows to swirling patterns of ruby reds and sapphire blues. It's like diving headfirst into an over-the-top runway show for spices. Except the models are fragrant sacks of cinnamon, and you're the reluctant VIP. Silk fibers brush your fingertips so smooth you half expect it to text you a thank you note, while the faint smell of dye tickles your nose like someone sneezed grape Kool-Aid. In the half-light beyond the curtain, you can still hear the echo of camel bells and feel the grit of yesterday's caravan dust clinging to your boots, reminding you that you've traded the open road for an intimate chamber of intrigue. A faint rustle behind you sends a shiver through the silk, making you jump, because nothing says ancient bazaar drama like thinking you've been caught eavesdropping, when in reality it's just a merchant desperately checking if you've eaten his last slab of baklava. The stall beyond the drapes is framed by gleaming wooden beams carved with tulip motifs, and atop a low cedar table sits a fan of carefully folded scarves that look like origami clouds in jewel tones. You brush a corner of one scarf and catch a fleeting sparkle of gold thread hidden in its weave. Apparently some traders liked a bit of bling with their bargains. Light from a single oil lamp pools on the velvet carpet at your feet, casting long, silent shadows that seem to conspire with the walls. Every movement you make feels amplified, like when you accidentally open your webcam on a video call and realize you've been nodding along with a mouthful of coffee. You press yourself closer to the curtain heart, thudding in that did I just like that guy's comment way, hoping they don't mistake your ruffled tunic for a secret code. A pair of merchants exchange coded nods just beyond your reach. A slight jerk of the chin, a subtle lift of the eyebrow, and a quick slide of a tiny silk tassel across the table's edge. It's basically medieval charades. Imagine haggling at a grocery store by winking at the produce clerk and expect them to understand your deepest financial desires. One trader, draped in emerald robes, flicks his wrist twice, signaling I've got prime cloves, while his counterpart taps the table 3 times. I'll swap your cloves for my saffron plus a bit extra if you're feeling generous. You catch yourself practicing these gestures on your fingers like a nervous actor auditioning for a pantomime, convinced that if you master the ancient hand jive, you'll unlock the secret recipe for world peace or at least a decent discount. The pillows stacked in the corner seem to snicker at your antics, but they're too plush to give away any market secrets. Beyond the cushions, faded tapestries depict famous moments of Ottoman grandeur, often misinterpreted as mere decoration, but actually dropped hints at trading alliances. One panel shows Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent triumphantly returning from the siege of Vienna in 1529, clutching a chest of spices pilfered from European nobles. That siege is legendary for its sheer audacity, an empire pushing its golden age right to the gates of Western Europe. Meanwhile, few people know that some spice merchants tested the authenticity of saffron by soaking threads in rose water. Real saffron turns the water a deep sunset orange. Fake stuff just dyes your patience. Historians still debate whether those silk curtain negotiations secretly financed the Ottoman campaign at Vienna, or if the real money came from tax revenues on textiles instead. It's the kind of unanswered question that keeps scholars up at night, clutching their spice tins in existential dread. You edge closer to the tapestry and reach out to feel the coarse weave, partly to confirm that you're still in a spice market and not lost inside someone's grandmother's living room. The air here is muted, save for the soft breathing of traders leaning in to exchange whispers light enough to be mistaken for ASMR fan fiction. You notice that every whisper seems to ripple through the silk like a seismic wave of hush, and you wonder if the drapes are woven with some secret soundproofing magic. Probably not. But hey, it wouldn't surprise you if Ottoman tailors were the original acoustic engineers. A sudden brush of fabric alerts you to a merchant slipping behind the curtain, disappearing into the maze of stalls beyond. You freeze, heart thudding so loudly you're pretty sure the drapes can hear it, then remind yourself this is exactly why you came to feel the thrill of hidden markets and decode gestures that might as well be new TikTok dances. As you step back out toward the main bazaar alleys, the silk curtains fall shut behind you with a soft sigh, almost as if the market itself is winking and saying, "Shh, you didn't see anything." The warm glow of lanterns and a heady spice haze greets you again. But now, everything feels charged with secret knowledge. You run your palm across the dusty mosaic floor, recalling the hush behind those silken veils, and realize you're carrying more than just physical spices. You've absorbed a taste of ancient intrigue. Ahead, a new scene awaits. But for now, you pause to savor that tingle of discovery, convinced you've just unlocked the first chapter of a story whispered in thread and dye, hidden behind curtains of the most luxurious silence. You slip past a row of coiled cinnamon sticks and find yourself leaning against a column of polished marble carved with the Sultan's seal, the air around you humming with excitement, and maybe a hint of powdered ginger you accidentally kicked up. In this hushed corner of the bazaar, word travels faster than a gossiping harem servant. The Sultan has quietly imposed new spice quotas, and only the most trusted merchants know the secret proportions. You lean in, inhaling that familiar blend of nutmeg and clove, like someone shook a pepper shaker directly into your ear, and eavesdrop as a silk-robed trader murmurs, 40 Mehmedi of saffron no more. It's basically the Ottoman version of a VIP-only sale. You're not on the list, so you can't even peek at the price tags. Inside the vaulted arches, traders exchange glances sharper than daggers, their whispers ricocheting off the stone walls like a clandestine Morse code. You run a fingertip along a velvet pouch of black pepper and feel the soft tickle of rebellion thrumming beneath its surface. This quota isn't public knowledge because the Sultan wants to stir demand and leave European buyers drooling. It's like when your favorite coffee shop suddenly halves its oat milk supply, and you wonder if it's a pricing strategy or just bad inventory management. Except here, the stakes involve fortunes that could fund an entire navy. You remember that camel's rumble from the caravan under the crescent moon? Well, that same caravan now hauls only half its usual load of cloves thanks to the quota. A group of Greek and Armenian merchants huddled by a wooden counter, trading secret notes on rolled-up parchments sealed with wax. One flips the paper open just wide enough for you to glimpse a lined salt, lurks beneath the cumin cap. You tilt your head, trying to parse the code. Apparently, a salted spice shipment will slip under the radar of the palace inspectors. If you tried that stunt at home, your roommate would think you'd lost your mind, but here, it's a sanctioned form of market innovation. You can almost taste the tang of cunning in the air, like biting into a lemon drop, unannounced tart, and exhilarating. Down the corridor, a boy chirps a melody on his ney flute, signaling that the Sultan's quota edict has reached the Spice Guild. The melody rises and falls like the waves of the Bosphorus at dawn, carrying with it a single foreign note of urgency. You shiver partly from the sudden chill of the stone floor, partly from imagining the palace strategist drafting these quotas over a lavish feast of honey-soaked baklava. Strange fact, some merchants once smuggled extra saffron threads hidden inside hollowed-out figs to dodge palace levies, figs of all things. Historians still debate whether such smuggling escapades undermined the Sultan's control or inadvertently fueled the empire's insatiable spice obsession. You drift toward a cedar shelf where loaves of gingerbread rest beside jars of rosewater, a fragrant reminder that the Sultan's quotas ripple through every level of trade. The gingerbread, once a simple treat for market children, now carries a discreet surcharge because the molasses used to sweeten it must be rationed too. A merchant slices a sample, offering it to you with a wink, one bite, and the sugary warmth floods your senses, making you forget that you're essentially participating in an economic chess match. You swallow, trying to stifle the crumble, and realize that each crumb is a tiny rebellion against royal decree. In the distance, the clack of wooden ledgers being closed signals the end of a quota negotiation session. You follow the sound and peek into a dimly lit alcove where the Spice Guild scribes are tallying quotas in ink so dark it nearly obscures the paper. They work by oil lamp, their quills scratching a rhythm that echoes like a heartbeat in the silent square. You watch the ledger close, feeling like you've just witnessed the collapse of a civil service exam. Only this test determines who gets the lion's share of nutmeg. Nearby, a merchant smooths his turban, smirking as he pockets a slip of parchment thicker than a love letter proof of his allocated quota. Stepping back into the main bazaar, the riot of color and scent returns to greet you, heaps of turmeric blazing like a sunset, cardamom pods popping like confetti, and the soft drone of daily commerce. Yet, under that joyful cacophony, lies the Sultan's invisible hand, guiding every hushed bargain and every stolen glance at the merchant scale. You lean against a tiled pillar, the surfaces cool beneath your palm, and roll the idea around in your mind, a ruler, meting out spices like a baker, distributing cake slices fair in theory, but bound to spawn secret recipes for evasion. As you weave through the bustling stalls, your senses reel from the knowledge that each cinnamon stick, each glimmering saffron thread is counted and capped by royal decree. It's a dance of power and persuasion where the spice merchant's whispered bargains ripple all the way to the Sultan's palace. You step out into an open courtyard lantern light pooling at your feet and realize that you're holding more than a pouch of pepper. You're carrying the weight of an empire's appetite. Now imagine negotiating that next roast dinner without knowing how much pepper you're allowed. Talk about seasoning suspense. With that, you press on to uncover the next layer of these whispered trades, eager to see how every hush transforms into history. You emerge from the Sultan's quota negotiations into a sun-drenched alcove lined with woven mats, where the midday light spills through lattice windows like molten gold. Before you, dozens of small leather pouches embroidered with delicate arabesques rest in neat rows atop a cedar table. Each pouch contains cumin seeds, tiny crescent-shaped kernels that look almost like miniature boomerangs, ready to launch flavor into your next stew. But here in the bazaar, these humble seeds carry a power far beyond the kitchen. They're silent markers, invisible currency that convey trustworthiness and bargaining power with a single puff of their warm, peppery aroma. You lift one pouch and inhale deeply. The scent is heady, like someone spilled curry directly into your lungs, but in a good way, and it shivers along your spine. Traders believe that offering a pouch of cumin signals honest intent, as if to say, "I stand behind my word." Across the table, a stooped merchant with twinkling eyes watches you evaluate the pouch. He shifts his robes, revealing a glint of jade hanging from his belt, a token he will only show to those deemed worthy. You nod subtly, brushing the pouch with your fingertips and returning it gently, the implicit agreement sealed without a single word exchanged. It's negotiation by osmosis, as unspoken as a secret handshake, and arguably more effective than any buzzing smartphone tap. A gust of wind rattles the lattice, sending a swirl of dust motes dancing in the golden beam. You recall how after the Battle of Lepanto in 1571, Ottoman admirals sent victory messages carved onto cumin-dusted scrolls, an odd but fragrant twist on military dispatches. That famous naval clash reshaped control of the Mediterranean, yet few know that victorious fleets carried special cumin sachets to ward off scurvy on long voyages. Historians still debate whether those spice-laden messages truly boosted morale or merely seasoned the ink until the words blurred into an exotic stew of letters. As you settle onto a low cushion, you notice the merchant's apprentice arranging the pouches by weight and stitch quality. No two are exactly alike. Some are fastened with a single loop of sinew, others boast elaborate silk knots. The slight differences tell a story. The simpler ones belong to upstart traders, eager to prove themselves, while the more ornate pouches come from veteran spice houses with centuries of lineage. It's like judging people by their WhatsApp profile pics. Except here, your reputation hinges on the fineness of your pouch embroidery. You can almost hear the apprentice humming a catchy folk tune, though the words are lost beneath the clink of copper scales and the soft scuffle of slippers. A swirl of laughter drifts from nearby tents, where Greek and Armenian merchants demonstrate cross-cultural flair. They've adapted the cumin marker system, but instead of leather pouches, they use folded sheets of ebony bark tied with saffron threads. The result is a black and gold package that gleams in the sun, practically begging passers-by to pick it up. You step closer, resisting the urge to snap a picture for your non-existent bazaar Instagram account. Instead, you catch a stray whiff of rose water from an adjacent stall, and the spices mingle in your nose, like the world's most confusing perfume sample. You press the leather pouch against the palm of your hand, feeling its soft grain and imagining the countless times it's passed between fingers in centuries past. Strange fact, in some Ottoman caravans, merchants wore cumin pouches around their necks, like necklaces, believing the spice would protect them from the evil eye and stolen goods alike. It's the kind of quirky superstition that would make for a memorable party anecdote. Just don't try wearing cumin to your next dinner party unless you enjoy apologizing for smelling like taco night. Out on the dusty road beyond the bazaar, you can hear camel bells tinkling in the distance. You stand and follow the sound winding through shelves of dried rose petals, jars of anise, and stacks of ginger loaves. With each step, the cumin pouch in your hand weighs more not in ounces, but in significance. You remember the caravan's night watch, swapping cumin sachets at dusk as a show of solidarity before setting up camp. These fragrant tokens were like motivational posters, but far more aromatic. You smile at the thought. If only motivational slogans came in spice form, you think I'd be far too well seasoned for my own good. Back in the heart of the bazaar, the midday hubbub intensifies. Shouts of caraway nutmeg clash with the clang of anvils from nearby metalworkers. Yet here, in this cumin-scented corner, the commotion fades into a muted hum. You recall how traders used cumin markers during the 1453 siege of Constantinople, discreetly pledging bits of their spice stockpile to underfunded soldiers. Historians still debate whether those covert contributions turned the tide of battle or simply filled the victors' bellies with too much curry. Either way, the cumin pouch became an emblem of loyalty and resourcefulness. A breeze rattles the fringed canopy overhead, and you tuck the pouch into your sash. It rests snug against your side, a reassuring weight that says, "You're part of the club now." You peer across the table at the merchant, and for a brief moment, his stern expression softens. He slides forward a gold dinar, an unspoken gesture of acceptance. In return, you press a finger to your heart and then extend the pouch. It's a ritual older than most European monarchies, distilled to its essence in a leather pouch smaller than your smartphone. Just then, laughter erupts from a nearby group as one apprentice accidentally spills cumin seeds across the floor. The little kernels bounce and roll between mosaic tiles like runaway marbles, and the merchants scramble to gather them. You crouch to help flicking seeds back into pouches with a precision that surprises even you. One merchant claps you on the shoulder, eyes gleaming. You learn fast, the highest compliment in this hush-driven trade. You can't help but chuckle. Who knew my knack for picking up marbles would translate to spice diplomacy? Rising to your feet, you dust off your trousers and reinstall the gathered cumin sacks in neat rows. The midday sun feels warm against your back, and as you look out over the bazaar's colorful tapestry, you realize that these tiny seeds wield more power than empires half their size. They're the silent language of trust, a whispered promise between strangers who for a moment become allies over the exchange of earthy fragrance. With the cumin pouch secure, you glide back into the market's main artery, ready to see how these quiet signals unfold in the next chapter of Whispered Trade. After all, if a single pinch of spice can seal a deal, imagine what the next gesture will unleash. And trust me, you'll want to stick around, because there's still a world of hidden auctions, clandestine melodies, and secret alliances waiting just around the corner. You slip through a slender opening between stacked cedar trunks and find yourself in a dimly lit booth that smells of resin and polished wood, a fragrant contrast to the sharp tang of spices you've been breathing all day. The chamber is simple, low benches ring a central platform dotted with hand-carved spice boxes, each lid creaking softly when nudged. In the corner, a lone musician raises a knee flute to his lips, the bamboo tube reflecting the lantern's flicker like a quiet invitation. Before you can even adjust to the hush, he begins to play a single, clear note that hangs in the air, like the last drop of syrup on a spoon, an almost inaudible summons that sets your nerves buzzing. That flute melody is no mere performance. In these whispering halls, it's the official code signaling the start of a clandestine spice auction. You feel the note slide across your skin, a shiver that says, "Lean in closer." Merchants straighten their robes, exchange glances sharper than a scimitar's edge, and slide their pepper-laden pouches onto the low table. You settle onto a cushion beside a gleaming copper brazier, its embers casting flickering patterns of light and shadow that dance across the walls like restless gin. Every inhale carries hints of cedar smoke and crushed coriander, a sensory cocktail stronger than any tavern brew. As the nay's melody meanders through its first phrase, you notice subtle variations, a staccato trill here, a drawn-out sigh there. Each variation conveys a specific message. The Sultan's inspector is approaching, black pepper up for grabs, or beware of spies among you. It's like Morse code, but instead of dots and dashes, you have breath and finger placements. You tentatively lift a pouch of white pepper and hold it aloft, which in this flute-driven dialogue means you're willing to trade 5 white pepper seeds for 3 nutmegs and an out-of-empire cinnamon stick. A cloaked figure across the booth nods once, and you can almost hear the unspoken deal swirl between you like the smoke from the brazier. Few people realize that Ottoman intelligence networks once used ney flutes to relay battlefield orders during the siege of Candia in 1669, where Venetian holdouts almost repelled the empire before finally surrendering after a 21-year stalemate. In that epic clash, musicians stationed atop bastions would play coded melodies to signal reinforcements or retreats. Historians still debate whether those flute codes tipped the scales or if the siege's outcome hinged more on logistics and disease. But here in this cedar-scented auction room, the tradition lives on repurposed for puffy sacks of peppercorns rather than muskets. You lean forward as the musician transitions into a faster sequence, each note a ripple in the ritual tide. The merchants respond in kind, quick taps on the table or shifts in the arrangement of spice jars. You watch as a veteran trader, his back straight as a minaret column, slides a tray of clove buds forward. The flutist accentuates the second flourish, signaling high bids only, and the trader's counterpart, her hair tucked beneath a velvet headscarf, slides 4 silver dinars into a folded silk handkerchief. You feel tension coil in the air like an unseen serpent, waiting for the final note that will seal the auction's fate. A sudden low drone from the brazier's embers punctuates the flute's cadence, and you realize you can actually feel the heat radiating through the woven carpet beneath your legs. Someone has gently stirred the coals, infusing the room with a hint of sweet pine smoke. It reminds you of Christmas carolers in a winter village, except the songs are salty, spicy, and drenched in veiled intent. You take a cautious sip of rose-hinted sherbet offered by a nearby apprentice its frosty sweetness contrasting sharply with the smoky cedar and piquant pepper. The combination is almost disorienting, like trying to savor sorbet while wrapped in a wool blanket. Midway through the auction, the flute shifts into a single sustained note that stretches out like taffy. It's the universal cue. Final bids. The room holds its breath. You glance at your own handful of pouches, saffron, nutmeg, black pepper, and wonder if you can bluff your way to victory. A merchant to your right hesitates, then pushes his saffron sachet forward. The flutist responds with a brief trill, an invitation for counter-offers. Your heart thumps as you consider playing your wild card, a small bundle of rare green cardamom harvested from the mountains of Garmsir. You lift it, letting the pale green pods catch the lamp's glow and catch the flutist's eye in the corner of the room. He gives a barely perceptible nod, a silent go for it. When you set your cardamom down, it's like dropping a gauntlet. A hush falls as all eyes turn to inspect the subtle ridges of each pod. The flute's melody softens to a gentle cascade of notes, a sign of surprised approval. The veteran trader blinks, then slowly nudges his bowl of clove buds aside. With a slight bow, he concedes the lot to you. A ripple of quiet murmurs like contented cats purring wafts through the chamber. Your prize, a sealed jar of paprika infused with lemon zest, an item even seasoned merchants covet for its bright, unexpected zing. Your fingertips tingle from the thrill, and you tuck the paprika jar into the fold of your robe. The flutist envelopes the room in one final resonant note that vibrates through every wooden beam. In that moment, the cedar booth feels alive, as if it's sighing with satisfaction at a perfectly executed symphony of commerce. The merchants rise, gathering their winnings and their unsold wares, silhouettes flickering like campers at dawn. You, too, stand and step toward the exit, trailing a faint plume of cedar smoke behind you. As you emerge back into the broader market, the lull of conversation and clinking coins returns. Lanterns swing gently, and the lingering scent of cedar blends seamlessly with the bazaar's signature tapestry of aromas. You pause to inhale the complex bouquet pepper rose water, now a whisper of pine and grin at the memory of your flute code auction victory. You realize that beneath every hushed note and coded gesture lies a delicate dance of trust and daring, orchestrated by breathwood and spice. Your robe swishes against the mosaic floor as you continue your journey, a secret actor in an age-old performance where flutes speak louder than words. Ahead, the next corner beckons promising tangled alliances, whispered betrayals, and perhaps another coded melody waiting to unfold. And you, dear listener, will be right there in the front row, heart racing with each silent note. You slip away from the cedar-scented booth and follow a narrow corridor lit by flickering oil lamps, their flames dancing across carved stone pillars like restless spirits. The corridor's hush is almost sacred, broken only by the soft creak of wooden floorboards beneath your slippers and the distant drip of water echoing from unseen gutters. Every step you take seems amplified, as if the very walls lean in to eavesdrop on your thoughts. Ahead, a heavy velvet curtain embroidered with pomegranates marks the entrance to the Midnight Spice Auction, an exclusive event that draws only the most daring traders when the rest of the bazaar has surrendered to sleep. Pushing aside the curtain, you enter a vaulted hall arranged in concentric rings of low tables, each draped in dark purple cloth that absorbs the lamplight into velvet shadows. At the center, a dais holds a single ebony box, humming with anticipation. It contains the night's rarest lot cloves preserved in sugar shells so transparent they glint like dark jewels. Traders crouch beside each table, their faces haloed in lantern glow, and instead of voices they rely on a silent scoring system, sliding ivory tokens across the table's edge, rearranging stacks of copper coins, and using coded hand signals that look like they belong in an overly elaborate yoga class. You take a seat on a plush cushion heart, fluttering like a startled dove, and grip your own pouch of fine nutmeg dust as your bidding currency. A hush settles, and an auctioneer steps into the circle. He's draped in a cloak patterned with midnight blue poppies, an homage to the tulip era when Ottoman high society reveled in floral motifs and opulent auctions that sometimes lasted until dawn. In that era of 1718 to 1730, silent spice auctions reportedly fetched sums equivalent to small estates, fueling rumors that merchants were secretly trading estates for a single ounce of saffron. Historians still debate whether those tulip-era auctions were mere social spectacles or genuine engines of economic growth. But tonight, you're here for the real deal, hoping your nutmeg dust will outbid rivals for those sugar-shelled cloves. The auctioneer raises his hand, and the signal ripples through the room like a ripple across a still pond. Tables begin shifting. An apprentice slides 3 ivory tokens forward. I open at 3 dinars, and another stacks 5 copper coins. I raise 2, 5. You press your pouch of nutmeg dust into your palm, feeling its weight as if it were a tiny golden egg. You then place 1 small pinch into an ornate brass dish, a gesture meaning I bid 2 dinars and 1 nutmeg pinch. Instantly, a murmured gasp travels around the ring, and you realize your unconventional offer has turned heads no one else has dared blend spice dust into their bids. A strange fact drifts through your mind. Some Ottoman spice traders once trained nightingales to sing specific melodies when a bid crossed a secret threshold, so pickpockets wouldn't mistake the musical cue for market gossip. Tonight, however, the only soundtrack is the low scrape of tokens and the rhythmic drip of wax from the lanterns above. You watch as a rival trader, her lips painted with kohl and her turban adorned with scarlet feathers, counters by sliding her entire copper purse forward, a bold move that speaks volumes in this unspoken language of commerce. You feel a thrill of competition, like stepping onto the mat in a silent wrestling match, where every flex of muscle is a whispered challenge. Leaning forward, you recall that during the siege of Vienna in 1683, Ottoman supply lines depended heavily on these midnight auctions to provision troops under cover of darkness, avoiding enemy patrols and securing rare spices for both rations and morale. Few outside the empire know that these clandestine auctions were as critical to wartime logistics as any battlefield maneuver. Historians still debate whether the shortage of pepper in the final months of the siege hastened its outcome or simply made the soldiers' stews taste bland. It's a spicy twist of fate that even centuries later sparks heated scholarly arguments. The auctioneer's hand drops, signaling final bids. In an instant, all eyes pivot to the center dais. You swallow cheeks warm under the lantern glow and slide your brass dish, now bearing 4 nutmeg pinches, across the purple cloth. A hush, deeper than the one before, grips the room as though the very stones are holding their breath. The rival trader hesitates, finger hovering over her purse, then slowly withdraws her coins. The ivory tokens dance away as the other bidders concede their claims one by one. When at last only your dish remains, the hall exhales in a collective sigh of approval that feels like a wave of perfumed air washing over you. The auctioneer straightens and gestures toward you, then lifts the ebony box's lid. Inside lies the sugar-shelled cloves pearlescent nuggets nestled against black velvet. You lift one to the light, marveling at how the crystal-clear shell hugs the clove's curved curves. The apprentice hands you a polished silver vial as proof of purchase, its weight reassuring in your palm. You tuck it into your robe and feel the soft hum of satisfaction unfurling in your chest. This is more than a trade. It's a rite of passage in the hushed world of whispered spice commerce. As the hall empties, you linger to inhale the residual blend of cocoa-hued cloves and the faintest hint of rosewater from a nearby stall. The auctioneer, now alone beside the dais, offers you a nod that feels like a coronation. You've earned your place among the midnight merchants. The velvet curtain parts behind you, and you step back into the wider bazaar alleys where the moon has climbed higher, illuminating stacks of cinnamon logs that resemble sleepy dragons curled in slumber. You make your way to a secluded corner where a small brazier crackles, offering sweet sour sherbet to any noble or novice brave enough to sip at this hour. You accept a cup, its chilled rosewater sting cutting through the clove's richness like a well-timed punchline, reminding you why you're here, hunched over ancient tables that barter more than flavor. With each sip, you feel more entwined with the bazaar's midnight pulse, where every silent auction is a secret handshake among those who worship spice. Gathering your winnings, you step into the cool night corridor once more. The lantern's glow now seems softer, as though bowing in respect to your triumph. Behind you, the velvet curtain flutters shut with a final hush, sealing away the secrets of the midnight auction until the next moonlit hour. You trace your fingers along the stone walls as you walk the echoes of tokens and whispered gestures, still resonating in your memory. Ahead lies another threshold, one that promises cloaked alliances and hidden betrayals in equal measure. But for now, you exhale the taste of sugared cloves lingering on your tongue and press on, eager to discover where these whispered trades will lead at dawn's pale edge. You slip through a heavy velvet drape into a vaulted chamber where the first pale shafts of dawn prickle through carved lattice windows. The air is cool, weighted with the mingled scents of rosewater and damp wool as cloaked traders circle low tables heaped with silk bolts and spice pouches, their robes shades of bruised plum, starless midnight blue, and onyx black absorb every flicker of lamp glow, making the room feel like a gallery of living shadows. You lean against a marble column etched with tulip motifs, listening to the soft susurrus of wool brushing mosaic floors and the distant drip of dew from stone gutters. At the center, a trader in plum-dyed cloth unfurls a bolt of silk so lustrous it seems to swallow the lantern light, its ripples catching hints of lavender and silver. Opposite him, a saffron-robed merchant lays out golden threads thicker than a child's pinky, their color glowing like captured sunlight. They exchange subtle gestures, a nod, a fingertip, brushing a fringe as deliberate and precise as a master calligrapher's strokes. Without a single word, the silk dealer's eyebrow flick signals a willingness to trade 12 hand-woven brocades for a half-ounce of cashmere saffron, and the saffron merchant responds with a slight incline acceptance. You murmur to yourself that these traders would get a 0 on Shark Tank, no flashy pitch deck, just the intimate language of thread and fragrance. A breeze drifts through an open archway, teasing the edges of cloaks and carrying the mingled aroma of nutmeg and jasmine. You adjust your own hood, aware that every fiber here carries meaning. Beside you, a merchant lifts a pouch of black pepper to his nose, inhales deeply, then taps the table twice. 2 dinars. Across from him, a rival slides forward, 1 silver coin and a pinch of green cardamom. Approved. Nearby, someone tests spice purity. Using a shallow bowl of water, a pinch of ground mace billows oil droplets that coalesce into perfect spheres on the surface. It's an arcane ritual that few outside this circle know. Strange fact, some caravans once hid their most precious mastic gum inside hollowed ivory combs to evade bandits believing thieves would overlook ordinary grooming tools. You lean closer, heart racing, imagining the surprise on a bandit's face upon discovering fragrant resin instead of loot. Legends say that during the Treaty of Karlowitz, negotiations in 1699, Ottoman and Habsburg envoys exchanged saffron-lined letters to lend gravitas to their terms, each red thread representing a pledge of peace. Historians still debate whether those saffron-coated missives swayed the treaty's outcome or were simply extravagant tokens that left diplomats sneezing at the negotiation table. You tuck that oddity away, picturing grand halls filled with red-stained parchment and sniffing nobles. A merchant in deep indigo steps forward presenting a bolt of velvet embroidered with silver thread worth more than a landed estate in some provinces. Across from him, another trader reveals a leather pouch, bursting with rare cassia bark. With a single graceful motion, the velvet dealer flips a token, bearing his seal twice. I'll trade 1 yard of velvet for 3 ounces of cassia and a pinch of cardamom. The cassia merchant inspects the velvet's nap, brushes it across his cheek, then slides forward a stack of copper coins plus a gold dinar. Silent deal sealed. A hush envelops the chamber when a small flask of rose-infused musk is produced, its amber liquid trembling like trapped sunset. It's a gesture of goodwill, proof that the musk merchant's stock is genuine. You remember that during the Treaty of Belgrade in 1739, diplomats swapped musk-spritzed handkerchiefs to seal agreements, believing the scent banished lingering hostilities. Historians still debate whether that scented diplomacy eased tensions or simply gave every envoy chronic sniffles. An apprentice offers you a cup of spiced coffee brewed with cardamom and clove. You sip, savoring the bittersweet warmth that floods your chest and eases the pre-sunrise chill. With each swallow, you feel more a participant than a voyeur cocooned in this ritual as ancient as the empire itself. Lantern light flickers across the traders' faces, each expression unreadable, yet bound together by unspoken trust. As pale light brightens the lattice carvings, the cloaked circle loosens. Traders roll up silk bolts, tuck spice pouches into hidden pockets, and slip away like secrets at dawn. You stand shoulders stiff from hunching over the table, heart thudding with the thrill of silent bargains. Pressing a hand to your cloak where a cassia pouch nestles you, step back onto the mosaic corridor where the first stalls of the waking bazaar beckon. Outside, the sun's rays spill onto heaps of turmeric and ginger beneath open awnings. The morning bustle begins, shouts of cinnamon and nutmeg fill the air, but you carry within you a private sunrise, the memory of cloaked alliances struck in whispers where every gesture weighed more than a shouted promise. Ahead lies the next hidden corner where more silent symphonies of spice await your senses and your sly fingertips. You wake before dawn's glow, the caravan's lanterns guttering like reluctant eyelids as you climb once more onto your camel's broad hump. The scent of dusty road mingles with lingering hints of last night's cedar smoke, and you rub the sleep from your eyes only to notice a hollow pit where the nutmeg crate should rest. Your heart lurches. The prized lot you secured in the midnight auction has vanished, replaced by a box of worthless mud-smeared stones. It hits you like realizing your favorite espresso was swapped for decaf utter betrayal and definitely not the peppery pick-me-up you expected. A hush ripples through the caravan as traders stir. The wheelwright's apprentice scratches his head, the oxen shift uneasily, and the lead merchant's tight jaw crackles like stubble against a razor. You dismount, boots crunching on gravel, and crouch beside the crate, now scuffed and unlocked. The official seal has been painstakingly removed, the rope frayed in precise cuts. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were stealing and how to cover their tracks. It's less of a highway robbery and more of a surgical strike, one that cuts deeper than any dagger. You glance at your fellow merchants, a Greek silk trader with mournful eyes, a bearded spice broker shaking his head, and the lean guide who has led you through every twist of this road. His gaze drifts away too quickly, like a page turned before you read the punchline. You press your palm to the crate's rough wood and brush away a smear of crimson clay, a subtle sign of the bandits who once ambushed caravans near Mount Taurus. A memory surfaces. Soldiers at the Battle of Lepanto in 1571 used the same clay to mask their armor, moving unseen through enemy lines. Historians still debate whether that tactic tipped the balance at sea or if it was simply war room lore spun into legend. Your chest tightens as you piece together the scene. The guide, trusted all the way from the port of Izmir, likely slipped away under the cover of night, leading a small gang to intercept your convoy at an isolated bend in the road. He might have signaled them with a carved wooden token, the same kind you saw him palm after the cinnamon quota deal. You remember the subtle sign from the earlier part of your journey? A single tap on a pouch meant all clear, 2 taps meant danger. But you didn't notice any 2-tap warnings. Instead, you logged onto this dusty path like a naive traveler at an open mic night, except the joke's on you. A gust of wind rattles the canvas tarps overhead, scattering sand across your sash. You crouch to inspect the tracks leading away, camel prints trampled wagon wheels, veering toward a scruffy side trail barely visible in the pre-dawn gloom. You rise, chest humming with adrenaline, and call to the other merchants in a voice that sounds stranger to your ears than a whisper in a marble hall. Gather your valuables. Apart from what's here, everything's at risk. Their startled compliance feels like the low rumble of an unsteady siege engine ready to collapse at the slightest push. You seize the guide by the arm, his skin cool and unyielding beneath your fingers, and drag him before the caravan. His eyes flicker between defiance and regret, like a candle struggling against a draft. "Explain this," you murmur, voice low enough for only him to hear. He swallows, lips trembling. "They promised safe passage beyond the Taurus passes." He mumbles, nodding toward the side trail. "A share of the nutmeg if I helped." You press harder on his wrist until you hear bones pop like stubborn corks. "And you agreed," you say flatly. He nods. A heavy silence settles. The head trader, once so composed, looks as though he might weep into his turban. You recall that during the Portuguese conquest of Malacca in 1511, local guides led caravans into ambushes for a cut of the profits, an act that fractured centuries of spice alliances. Historians still debate whether that betrayal irrevocably shifted the spice trade to European hands, or if Ottoman merchants simply rebuilt their roots elsewhere. Now you face the same dilemma: abandon years of trust, or find a way to salvage the convoy before everything's lost. With dawn's light creeping over distant hills, you take command. You order 2 guards to remain with the wounded crate, just enough to deter opportunistic bandits, while you and a small party pursue the guide's trail. Grabbing a pouch of cumin for good luck, or perhaps for a quick ransom, you urge your companions forward through the scrub brush and tumbleweeds. Each step cracks like dried pistachios underfoot, and the air tastes of sage and half-forgotten promises. The side trail narrows into a rocky gully, where the guide's footprints lead to a makeshift camp of overturned gourds and empty flint bottles. You spot the stolen nutmeg crate wedged beneath a collapsed lean-to, its label crudely altered. Your pulse drums in your ears. You hesitate, half expecting arrows to whistle from the cliffs above, but no assault comes. Instead, a lone figure emerges clutching a lantern and wearing a grin that twists like burnt sugar. It's the local spice broker, who you trusted above all his beard, flecked with pine resin from negotiating cedar quotas. Surprised, he croons. You step forward, fists clenched, and toss your cumin pouch aside. How could you? After everything, his laugh crackles like parched leaves. When opportunity knocks, you answer, especially if the Sultan's pockets feel deeper than ours. He strides toward you, the stolen crate swinging from one hand. The spice broker's betrayal stings worse than any missing cinnamon. This is treachery, born of greed and cunning. You back away, raising an eyebrow to signal your guards. One steps forward, sword half drawn, but you shake your head. I want words, not wounds, you growl. He smirks, burying the crate in the dirt and sweeping his lantern's light across your face. You always were too sentimental. He raises his lantern, casting elongated shadows that dance like anxious spirits across the rock walls. Hands where I can see them, he commands, fingers twitching near a hidden dagger. Your mind races. You recall the apprentice's trick with rose petals, how they drooped faster beside stale spices. Now you have an idea. Remember that purity test from the tasseled peddler, you ask. He narrows his eyes. Did you bluff? Let's see if this nutmeg is worth your cut. You wave your hand, beckoning him to uncover the crate. If it's decoy mud, I'll let you vanish into these hills. If it's real, you trail off. His grin falters. Reluctantly, he pries open the crate inside. Nutmeg kernels gleam like polished marbles, their chocolate brown ridges intact. You lean in, brushing a finger across a kernel, inhaling its warm musk. Genuine, you whisper. Historians still debate whether such tests saved caravans from ruin or simply emboldened thieves to steal more. His shoulders slump. I miscalculated, he admits. You beckon the guards forward. They seize his arms gently but firmly. You retrieve the lantern and guide him back to the main road, crate in tow. The sun has breached the horizon now, painting the sky in coral and saffron fitting given the day's drama. The head trader approaches, gratitude and exhaustion etched in every crease of his face. You hand back the crate, nodding once. Let's move before more surprises arise. As the caravan lurches forward, You settle back onto your camel mind, buzzing like a freshly shaken peppermill. Betrayal hurt like a sudden sneeze, unexpected and deeply jarring, but you managed to salvage the prize. The road ahead twists through hills and valleys, puzzles yet to solve. But for now, at least, your nutmeg is safe, and the echo of treachery hangs behind you like the last note of a Turkish neigh. Ahead lies the next chapter of whispered trades, and you, dear traveler, will be ready. Unless, of course, someone else decides to swap your solace for a handful of stones. You're threading your way through a narrow courtyard framed by arcaded colonnades when the sharp clang of metal splinters the morning calm. A squad of Sultan's guards, breastplates gleaming like freshly minted coins, march in formation, their halberds glinting under the sun. You freeze heart-ticking, in sync with the drum on their banners, each bearing the Sultan's tugra in gold. The air snaps cold for a moment, as if someone switched off the heat on your mint tea. The lead guard, his turban wrapped in imperial crimson, steps forward and taps the pomp of his halberd against the marble floor. Merchants, he intones voice low enough to rattle your ribcage, bring forth your finest saffron. You feel every eye in the bazaar lock onto your robes, as though you're expected to levitate a pouch of threads on the spot. It's the Sultan's new policy, a silent tribute of rare spices demanded from traders in exchange for safe passage and protection. You've heard whispers that Murad III first imposed such levies after the Venetian flotillas threatened Ottoman shipping. In the 1580s, an event that shifted the Mediterranean power balance overnight. A merchant beside you swallows, fingernails whitening as he unfolds a small leather pouch. You follow suit, slipping your saffron stash from your belt and pressing it into your palm like a hot coal you can't drop. The guard's steel gauntlet clamps around the pouch, weighing it with a subtle squeeze. You almost wince. This is the medieval equivalent of a surprise airport baggage fee. As he releases it, you catch the delicate threads tumbling between his fingers, their scent like liquid gold. The guard holds one strand up to the light, then dips it into a shallow bowl of milk. He carries a covert quality test said to originate under Sultan Ahmed Prustia. True saffron tints the milk a rich sunrise hue. Fake threads merely muddy the liquid surface. Historians still debate whether that dairy ritual began as genuine quality control or as a clever ruse to showcase imperial rigor. You've never been so grateful for your rooftop cow's morning milking. Behind you, a merchant from Bursa coughs, nearly dropping his cinnamon sticks. You lean sideways, nose brushing against cool stone, and murmur, "Next time, I'm shipping paprika instead." He cracks a nervous smile, Hall of Fame for bizarre one-liners, right? The guard processes your tribute, then nods and steps back, his expression unreadable behind chainmail. The rest of the squad fan out, blocking secondary alleys with silent precision. Traders begin to close their stalls, drawing heavy curtains of wool to shield unsurrendered spices. The once chatty corner of nutmeg sellers falls into a brittle hush, as if someone muted their group chat mid-gossip. You decide to slip around the guard's perimeter, tracing a narrow passage lined with cedar crates. Your fingertips graze the rough wood, recalling how cedar bark once protected peppercorns on long sea voyages by repelling moisture, and according to one odd tale, a cargo of squirrels who ate their way through unsuspecting shipments. It's the kind of tidbit you'll tuck away for dinner party bragging rights. As you round a corner, you spot a heavily bearded inspector stamping official seals on empty sacks. Each seal bears the Sultan's emblem, a delicate crescent atop an 8-pointed star. You press your palm against the courtyard wall, feeling the cool grooves of the carved motifs, pomegranates, and tulips that once decorated Suleiman's private garden walls. You inhale deeply, letting the faint diesel of worry fade into the background. Above, a falcon screeches and takes wing riding a thermal current above the rooftops. It's almost poetic, nature's own symbol of the Sultan's reach, surveying every corner of his domain. You glance at your own empty pouch strap and realize you've just participated in a centuries-old ritual of power and persuasion, where no coin changes hands, yet everyone pays dearly. A sudden breeze lifts a curl of your hair and you tuck it behind your ear, reminding yourself these guards are not your enemies, just pawns in a game you're still learning to play. You slip back through the iron-wrought gate, refill your reserve pouch beneath a stall awning, and whisper to the vendor, "Keep your cinnamon close and your saffron closer." He nods gravely, pocketing a fresh bundle of crimson threads as you step back into the bazaar's familiar hustle bellies of leather pouches clinking and the scent of rosewater drifting through the stalls. You carry with you the sharp echo of halberds and the taste of tribute on your tongue. The Sultan's guards have gone, but their presence lingers like a jingling belt of peppercorns, reminding you that every whispered deal exists under the watchful eye of power. And somewhere scholars are still arguing over whether those silent levies enriched the empire or simply strained the trust between rulers and traders. Whatever the case, you know you'll carry this morning's tension with you, half as a lesson, half as a spicy story to share when the night grows quiet again. You slip into a narrow lane just off the main thoroughfare where the morning bustle softens into a gentle hum, and the air carries equal parts toasted sesame and dried apricot pit. Here, Greek and Armenian merchants converge beneath a canopy of woven reeds, their stalls adorned with olive wood bowls brimming with coriander and small alabaster jars holding sweet apricot oil. You lean in, inhaling that briny hint of sea salt mingled with the warm musk of roasted anise. It's like standing at the edge of the Aegean while someone toasts chai over coals beside you. A Greek trader with calloused palms and a breezy half-smile taps a spoon against a bowl of cumin, the hollow ring slicing through the lane's quiet like a bell at an Orthodox dawn service. He murmurs a short melody, 3 lilting notes that signals prime lots first, and an Armenian counterpart responds with a low hum in perfect harmony, a duet of commerce in place of clinking coins. It feels almost theatrical, like 2 backup singers trading riffs on stage, except instead of microphones, they wield pouches of scented spice. You try humming along, but only manage to startle a curious pigeon perched on a sun-bleached column. Nearby, an apprentice unfolds a length of lace-patterned cloth, dipping its corner into a shallow basin of rosewater infused with a single strand of saffron. The cloth turns a delicate blush, an impromptu color test, showing whether the saffron came from the imperial gardens of Edirne or was smuggled through the Black Sea by smugglers posing as fishmongers. Strange fact, some Armenian households once hid precious saffron threads inside hollowed loaves of lavish to keep them safe from highwaymen. Historians still debate whether those culinary smuggling runs genuinely enriched diaspora communities or simply led to an epidemic of unexpectedly spicy breakfast. You crouch beside a carved stone bench, where a Greek elder dips a finger into a bowl of ground sumac, flicks it against a copper plate, and watches the fine crimson dust settle in patterns so precise they look like petroglyphs. He explains without words, of course, that this silent ritual conveys both respect and readiness. To negotiate the more intricate the swirl, the higher the opening bid for his saffron capsules. It's negotiation transformed into dance like choreographing a tick-tock duet, where every gesture must be on beat. You practice the swirl in the air with your fingertip, hoping no one notices your makeshift audition. A cool breeze rattles the reed canopy overhead, carrying faint strains of Byzantine chant from a nearby chapel. You recall that during the 1687 siege of Morea, Greek merchants secretly supplied Ottoman forces with barrels of spiced wine, slipping letters inside corks to coordinate deliveries. Historians still debate whether that covert supply line prolonged the campaign or merely made everyone a bit too merry at night. You chuckle at the thought. Imagine toasting your conquering soldiers with cinnamon-laced mulled wine and calling it military strategy. As you rise, the Armenian trader presses a small apricot oil vial into your palm, his silent way of welcoming you into their circle. You can feel the oil's smooth weight, a promise of loyalty thicker than any contract ink. You nod and offer a pinch of coriander from your own pouch, then tap twice on the wooden bowl. I accept. Around you, the lane brightens as more merchants arrive, drawn by the unspoken allure of cross-cultural camaraderie. You straighten and inhale deeply, savoring the fading traces of sumac, sea salt, and apricot. This is where empires bridged gaps in hushed collusion beneath reed canopies, where a shared melody or a dust swirl spoke louder than any edict. You step back onto the cobblestone's heart, warmed by the knowledge that even in whispered rituals, the spice trade wove its most enduring alliances. Ahead lies the next chapter of whispered intrigue, ready for you to taste its secrets. You slip behind a carved cedar screen into a low-ceilinged alcove where a single lantern's glow reveals hundreds of rolled parchment scrolls stacked like silent sentinels. The air here is thick with the musky scent of aged leather bindings and the faint metallic tang of iron gall ink, like someone left a pen nib in your nose for hours. A long walnut table stretches before you, its surface scarred by centuries of quill scratches, and along its edge crouches a half-dozen robed scribes, their hoods pulled low over weary eyes. They don't speak. Instead, each careful stroke of their quills inscribes a hidden ledger chronicling every whispered bargain in a cipher so intricate it would make modern cryptographers weep. You lean forward, fingertips grazing the cool stone floor, and watch as one scribe dips his quill into a tiny well of ink made from boiled gall nuts and oak bark, then carefully twists the parchment to the left, an unspoken signal that this entry concerns saffron smuggled past palace inspectors. The swirl of letters unfurls like a secret handshake, a swirl of curves and dots that only the guild's initiated can decipher. A stifled cough behind you reveals a junior scribe applying invisible ink lemon juice infused with turmeric dust to encode side notes in the margins. It's a trick so subtle that no cursory glance would ever spot it. You can almost hear the scribe's quivering breaths as they guard these records tighter than a treasury vault. On the far wall, a faded fresco depicts the Battle of Mohas. In 1526, Ottoman cannons roaring across Hungary's plains, while scribes in the imperial camp transcribed victory dispatches on portable scrolls. That clash is remembered as the moment the Ottomans crushed the Kingdom of Hungary, opening Central Europe to centuries of influence. Here, in this hidden alcove, scribes played their own role, sending coded updates through caravan channels so that commanders knew where to send reinforcements and where to hoard spices for morale. Historians still debate whether those encrypted dispatches were decisive in turning the tide at Mohács, or if the outcome hinged more on sheer numbers and cavalry tactics. A soft scrape of quill on parchment draws your attention to a slender, monk-like figure who uncorks a vial of violets-infused lavender oil and brushes a fine mist across a fresh scroll. The fragrant haze reacts with a special pigment in the ink, causing those sections to glow faintly under moonlight, perfect for midnight rereads without torches that might betray hidden meetings. You inhale the lavender's gentle sweetness and marvel at the lengths these record keepers will go to preserve secrecy. If you ever find yourself reading one of their ledgers, you'd be none the wiser that an entire layer of code swirls invisibly between the lines. At the table's far end, two senior scribes lean close, tracing a delicate scroll with their fingertips. Their gloved hands move in near-identical choreography, left right up, recording a high-stakes deal involving 3 mule loads of pepper, bound for Venice, swapped for hard-to-find nutmeg splits. The luxury of those spices funded lavish courts from Vienna to Cairo, yet here they pass through this alcove as nothing more than lines of ciphers in a hidden journal. You sigh to yourself, medieval bureaucracy at its finest, more convoluted than a modern tax return and twice as smelly. A junior scribe catches your eye and offers a carefully folded slip of paper stamped with the guild's emblem, a crescent embracing a quill. You accept it, unfolding the note to reveal a series of ink-blotted symbols. Your pulse quickens as you recognize the code for urgent stockpile reallocation due to caravan raid near Taurus Pass. You tuck the note into your sash, grateful for the encrypted heads-up. This is the kind of advantage that turns a failed journey into a story worth telling. A faint creak warns you that time's up. The senior scribe snaps the ledger closed with a sigh that echoes like an approaching caravan. You retreat, stepping back into the bustle of the bazaar's winding alleys, ink-smudged parchment tucked safely away. The scents of rose water and cardamom greet you like an old friend, yet now they carry an undertone of clandestine power. You run a fingertip across your palm, tasting the sweet tang of lavender oil that slipped past unnoticed, and realize you've seen the beating heart of Ottoman commerce, where knowledge, not coin alone, dictates who thrives. As you rejoin the morning crowd, you carry more than just spice sacks. You bore witness to a guild that wields quills as weapons, scrolls as shields, and secrets as currency. Behind every hushed negotiation lies this hidden ledger, a testament to the empire's silent architects. And you wandering merchant hold in your hands the very cipher that keeps kingdoms in balance until someone else writes the next entry. You slip into a quiet corner of the bazaar where the air sifts through arched windows and carries a faint tang of old parchment and rosewater polish. Shelves of leather-bound tomes climb toward vaulted ceilings, their spines etched with gilded script in Ottoman, Turkish, Arabic, and even Greek. You trace your fingertip along a row of weighty volumes, each one a whispered argument over something as ephemeral as the true power of spice. The lantern above you flickers, setting motes of dust, dancing like microscopic dancers in a silent ballet. A wizened scholar sits at a low desk beneath a cedar beam quill in hand, and spectacles perched precariously on his nose. He leans back, offering you a cup of saffron-tinged tea before launching into a half-whispered lecture about how spice duties once bankrolled Suleiman the Magnificent's naval expeditions. You lean in, inhaling the tea's honeyed warmth and the sour snap of clove that lingers on your tongue. He points to a map dotted with red ink roots where clandestine exchanges of pepper and nutmeg supposedly tripled the empire's revenues in a single decade. Across the desk, a young researcher unfurls a scroll displaying tax receipts labeled in microscopic script. Some argue she murmurs, tapping her quill, that whispered trades between silk curtain stalls and midnight auctions underwrote the Talali rebellions of the late 16th century. You raise an eyebrow. Rebellions funded by spice. It's as bizarre as hearing that merchants once used crushed saffron to stain religious manuscripts, believing the pigment was sacred enough to ward off bookworms. Historians still debate whether those secret spice levies truly fueled provincial uprisings, or if the unrest owed more to uneven land grants and heavy taxation on peasants. You pace between low tables strewn with ledger fragments and margin notes in invisible ink, the smell of boiled gallnuts and lavender oil heavy around you. A drawer creaks open, revealing a stack of coded letters exchanged between Istanbul and Aleppo, each missive sealed with cinnamon-scented wax to mask clandestine contents. A strange fact surfaces: some caravans reportedly hid rare long pepper in hollowed-out goat hooves to evade customs, a ruse so odd that modern forensics once mistook it for early veterinary practice. Leaning toward a flickering lantern, you sip your tea and listen as the scholars argue over margins of profit. Without those whispered transactions, one intones, voice hushed like a dirge, the empire's coffers would have emptied during the costly siege of Vienna in 1683. Yet another counters spice taxes, might have sweetened state finances, but climate-induced crop failures and piracy on the Red Sea played far larger roles in the empire's fiscal crises. The debate crackles between them like a heated anise-flavored ember. You close your eyes, letting the scent of dusty tomes and rosewater swirl into a single tapestry of knowledge. In this hushed chamber, the true power of whispered trade feels as elusive as the finest saffron thread, more potent in rumor than in your palm. But you carry with you the scholars' quibbles and the weight of their uncertainty, knowing that even the grandest empire can hinge on a debate over a spice-stained receipt. With a final sip, you bid the scholars farewell, tucking your teacup into your cloak. The corridor outside beckons with its mosaic floors and heady spice haze. You step forward, heart brimming with the echo of contested truths, and realize that every hushed negotiation leaves behind a question as resonant as any coin. How much of history was truly written in ink, and how much was whispered between pouches of pepper? At the break of dawn, you slip onto a wooden quay beside the Golden Horn, where dawn's mist clings to the water like a whisper of incense. Boats bob gently, their hulls laden with crates of pepper and cinnamon logs stacked to resemble lazy dragons floating in a sea of wood. The air carries a tang of brine and sawdust, and you pause to inhale deeply, letting the salt and cedar notes tumble together like an unexpected duet in your mouth. Remember that bizarre crocodile dung sunscreen from your wildest history binge. Right now it feels downright appetizing compared to breathing in cold morning sea spray and sawdust. Ahead, you spot a bustle of robed figures emerging from the city's first coffee house, its wooden sign swinging like a pendulum marking time. Word is that when it opened in 1554, the aroma of roasted beans wafted across Sultan Suleiman's palace walls, and some feared those dark brews would brew sedition along with stimulation. You push past a pair of merchants huddled over tiny porcelain cups, their elbows brushing as they sip a frothy black beverage flecked with foam. With each swallow, you feel a spark ignite behind your eyes like peppercorn fireworks bursting in slow motion. A nearby apprentice sniffs the leftover grounds. Locals once believed a deep whiff could cure headaches and chase away bad dreams. Historians still debate whether Ottoman coffee houses truly sparked political discourse, or if that charge was a later embellishment by European travelers. You weave between wooden tables scarred by centuries of chipped saucers, and leaning against a low counter, a dervish in tattered robes hands you a steaming cup laced with cardamom. The warmth floods your chest, chasing the chill from your bones as the sea breeze tugs at your sleeves. Nearby, a merchant traces a finger around his cup's rim, testing the coffee's thickness. A silent signal, meaning I'd trade a jar of rose-infused honey for another pot. You tap once on your cup, I accept your offer, provided you can prove its saffron purity with that old rosewater dip trick. He pauses, smiles, and lifts a small flask of perfumed water to the lamp, turning it a sunset hue before pressing it into your palm. Overhead, the quay's cargo cranes creak like ancient joints hoisting sacks of nutmeg onto waiting vessels bound for Venice. You lean against a mossy bollard and watch the ropes strain, thinking of that midnight auction when cloves glinted like trapped twilight. A sailor below hums a folk tune, 3 rising notes, 2 fall in a code you've come to recognize as spice of exceptional quality. You raise your cup toward him in salute, feeling the coffee's bitterness blend with the sea's salt into a single bracing flavor. A sudden shout draws your gaze to a pair of guards approaching the coffee house's entrance. Their halberds glint in the sun as they stride purposefully toward a merchant who allegedly hid a pouch of saffron in his sleeve. You slip your cup under a nearby canopy and melt into the milling crowd ears attuned to the guards' clipped commands. The scent of roasting beans and floating cardamom now feels like cover for whispered alerts. Every aroma, a code, every breath, a message. As you step back onto the quay, the morning light shimmers off the water, painting the scene in liquid gold and amber. With a final sip of cardamom coffee warming your fingertips, you tuck the empty cup into your sash and set off the quay's bustle, receding behind you. Ahead lies the final leg of your journey, the delicate dance of dawn's first markets, where whispered deals await in the hush before sunrise. You emerge into the early morning bustle as the bazaar's first stalls flicker to life like shy blossoms unfolding at dawn. The scent of sawdust and sea spray from the quay mingles with the familiar bouquet of turmeric, cinnamon, and rosewater warming in the new sun. You pause on the mosaic tiles, still cool underfoot, and let the ambient hum wash over you. Vendors rattling shutters, camels murmuring in the distance, the soft scrape of carts sliding into place. It's the final act in this whispered drama, the last covert bargain struck before daylight dissolves secrecy. Down the lane, you spot the jasmine-draped stall where earlier you traded cardamom coffee for a vial of rose-infused musk. Its owner greets you with a knowing smile and offers a final exchange, 3 hand-carved mother-of-pearl beads for a mound of Turkish bay leaves so potent they make your nostrils flare. You tap once on the wooden counter Agreed, you signal, then slip the beads into your pouch, the mother of pearl glimmering like pale moonlight. A gentle breeze teases loose threads of your sash, reminding you of the cumin pouch you tucked in back in Section 5. You lift it now and inhale the earthy warmth, letting it mingle with the coppery tang of dawn air like a private perfume. Across from you, an Armenian merchant unveils a tiny porcelain bowl filled with safflower petals dyed in orchard-fresh cherry juice, a secret indicator of when spring's first harvest yields are ready. You brush a petal between thumb and forefinger, marveling at how something so delicate can outshine even the finest cochineal in color and fragrance. Nearby, the hush of negotiation returns in low vibrations. 2 knocks on a cedar box means I'll swap my nutmeg stash for your prized clove pins, and a single flick of the wrist replies, "Deal." You mimic the gesture with surprising precision, each movement as second nature, as scratching an itch, as if you too have become part of the language of silence. It's a quiet choreography, a ballet of bargains that carries more weight than any shouted auction. You wander toward a corner where textiles from Bursa hang like rainbow waterfalls, crimson brocade, indigo velvet, and moss green silk shot with silver. A cloaked trader dips a finger into a bowl of pomegranate-soaked turmeric and applies the paste to the back of his hand, testing fabric dye fastness as well as spice quality. He flashes his palm, stained a deep sunset orange instead of speaking. You nod, lift your cumin pouch and press it against his dyed hand. "I'll give you 2 ounces of black pepper for that yard of crimson brocade," you gesture. He considers, then slides the bolt forward, all without parting his lips. Above you, the muezzin's first call to prayer drifts through the arches, its lilting melody underscored by the gentle clank of lantern chains. You realize time is slipping away. Soon the bazaar will swell with patrons too hurried or raucous for covert signals. But in this gilded window of quiet, you witness one final exchange, a veteran spice broker whose face you remember from the silk curtain whispers pulls a small brass cylinder from his robe. Inside is a single revered bud of black cardamom infused with rosewood smoke worth more than a month's worth of ordinary spice. He extends it toward a young merchant clad in saffron yellow, who in turn offers a linen scroll sealed with a wax heart. That heart, you know, marks an agreement of mutual trust extending beyond this dawn, a promise to share information on caravan routes and hidden bandit caches for seasons to come. Historians still debate whether such alliances forged over a single bud of cardamom truly shaped Ottoman trade corridors or merely warmed the hearts of enterprising dreamers. But in that hush, you can almost feel the weight of possibility, the bud's smoky whisper carrying news from one corner of the empire to another, binding strangers with an unspoken bond stronger than any written contract. You close your eyes and let the mosaic pattern swirl behind your lids. Pomegranates, tulips, crescents, all dancing together like spice dust caught in a shaft of light. You breathe in the final mingled fragrance of this dawn, cumin's earthiness, safflower's sweetness, rosewater's gentle caress, and the lingering crackle of cloves' warmth. For a moment, the world holds its breath with you. Then a distant shout of fresh ginger snaps the spell, and the stall keepers begin hoisting wares for the day's crowds. With one last quiet nod to your fellow conspirators, you slip your palm across the pattern of a tulip-carved pillar, your silent salute to their shared craft. You step forward onto the main avenue as morning shoppers flood in trading no more than coins and idle chatter but you carry inside you a treasure of hidden gestures, secret melodies, and scented tokens that will guide your steps long after the bazaar's din returns. Slowly now, the pace softens as you leave the labyrinth of whispered trades behind. Let your breath steady each inhale, renewing the gentle calm that follows excitement. Feel the warmth of the sun rise against your skin like a friendly hand, its light softening every edge and smoothing each anxious wrinkle. Remember, the cumin pouch's earthy hum, the rosewater's delicate bloom, the smoky whisper of cardamom. It all lingers like the final notes of a lullaby. In this quiet moment, know that you are part of something timeless, a tapestry of sense signals and secret alliances woven through centuries. As the day begins in earnest, carry this calm within you, an inner chamber of hush, where every breath is steeped in history's sweetest mysteries. Now let your shoulders relax, and as the bazaar's voices fade to a distant murmur, drift gently toward rest. Imagine each spice's essence wrapping you in warmth, a fragrant quilt of comfort that soothingly reminds you you are safe, you are curious, and you are home. Good night.